Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another thrilling Minecraft discussion. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and I am here to help people learn to become the boss of their brains, or the boss of their minds, interchangeable, sort of. And yeah, so today's conversation is going to be on, or continuing on the rest with boundaries, because I feel like we weren't quite done, but I'm trying to keep them short, so I'll take a brief little look over here because I'm such a Halloween nut. Our whole house is decked out all over the place. So, boundaries. Okay, so we didn't finish. So right now, coming into my head is I've been in Ireland a couple of times. I had the good fortune to be in Ireland a couple of times, and there are a lot of castles over there in the UK. And I'm telling you, they are totally glammed out. We talk about them in the States and literature and kids' books, and even Fisher Price has a little castle. They are so not, they're not for princesses, or at least not for, unless they're really badass princesses. Not the way we kind of glamorize it anyway, because they are definitely serious and severe. You can, like, you do little trap doors set up all over the place, and down you go, and they leave you there forever. Like, wow. So when we think about boundaries, the castles just came to mind, the moats and all of that stuff, and the walls are obviously there to keep everybody out, right? Now, the thing with boundaries is boundaries teach people where the doors are. So walls meant to keep everybody out, picture the castle, and then boundaries teaching people where the doors are. So boundaries are basically like hashtag self-respect. The opposite of that is getting like the word welcome tattooed across our foreheads. And here's the thing, that's just for a visual, because when we have many of us have difficulty setting boundaries, and the reason is because stuff happened to us probably as kids, because it comes down to self-worth and value, almost the same thing. So we're all born into this world, as little cute little cherubic babies, with that feeling of original worthiness. We all born with that. We feel enough. When we come into this world, we feel enough. It's like there's my warm, squishy thing, and she holds us, and then we get fed and all that stuff, and life is good. And then something happens to, kind of bust through that little imaginary force field that we have around us. And so typically that's some sort of dysfunction. And remember the scale of dysfunction. We can just maybe not gotten enough love that we needed, all the way to hereish, neglect, abuse, which neglect falls under the category of abuse, right? All the way to, bigger abuse. And as you know, there's physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. And I had the experience of all three. And I mentioned in the last video that the emotional abuse was by far the worst. The words were the worst, and also the lack of the words, like we said. And when we've been violated in any kind of way, it's like, again, we're born with this little, picture like an orb or like a little baby force field or something. Babies have boundaries. Babies know that they're enough exactly as they are, and then something happens. Somebody kind of people, things, and then the media supports all of it, stuff like that. So where the orb gets damaged or broken through, and that can happen from any type of violation, although I'm thinking it's a super clear example with sexual abuse. And, basically, once that switch is turned on, it doesn't get shut off because we unconsciously just start looking to be violated. We don't even know we're doing it, with promiscuity and with, other people taking advantage of us. And it can be sexually, and we can also that when that switch is turned on, it opens the door for us to be violated in general. It can be a lot more sexual violation. It can be anywhere on the scale, like verbally all the way to, like harassment all the way to more sexual stuff. It can be physical, it can be emotional violation, and it can just open the door for people to walk all over us because, like, that orb, the force field just was damaged and broken through, maybe non-existent. It's with severe stuff. And so the idea with the boundary setting thing is not to shame anybody if you're feeling like it's super hard for you, because it's good that you're aware. Awareness is key. Remember, we can't do what we don't know. We cannot do what we don't know. Once sort of light is shed upon it, then we start to see stuff, right? We see the light, so to speak. No joke. And like my friend Dr. Dave says, then once we have the awareness, we have the responsibility. And with the boundary setting thing, the responsibility is to ourselves. We've been talking about that in all lots of different contexts. With this particular, with the boundary setting thing, it's to ourselves. If we did not have the value mirrored for us, well, now that we're onto it, we've got to figure out and kind of get back on track with that, to learn to see our own value and to get that feeling of original worthiness back. Because we're going to win from within, which is the only way. It is to dig deeply, to feel that feeling of original worthiness again and value. So the boundary thing is about, putting that orb back, that this is okay and this is not okay. And it's an energy thing. And as soon as there's a shift in the force, people will get that you're not willing to do this, that, and this, and that you are willing to do this. And many, many people have trouble doing it for these. It's all external. I mean, it's how we feel inside, but it's based on out here, because we don't want to disappoint them. We want them to like us. We want to fit in. All those kind of things kind of go together. Then there's the reputation thing. My reputation. Here's the thing. People feel like they're carrying their reputation around, like on their shoulders or in their pocket or in their attaché case or something. Your reputation isn't in you or on you anywhere. It's in lots of other people's heads. And we can't control anybody but ourselves. So you may as well let go of all that now and just stop caring what people think. It's just like that. It's like it's like the Nike, just do it, only it's just not do it. And you have to practice it. And sometimes I'll say it's that easy, because it is that, not that easy, but it's that simple. It's that simple, not that easy. Like anything else, it takes practice, and what we practice, we get better at. Their opinions are just their opinions. And the other thing is to remember that whatever anybody says is 99% about them, because we are all the main characters on our own stage. So even whatever's coming at us is all about them and not us. Remember, too, what's all about them and not us is the people we're setting boundaries with. Like, they want us to come to the baby shower, they want us to come to the lunch, they want us to come to the movie, and all that may be good stuff, except if it's not good for you. Maybe you worked overtime this week, maybe you don't feel great, maybe you just need a mental health day to be by yourself and read a book and put your feet up. And it's okay to say that. Sometimes we get wrapped up in making up these big stories to politely decline something. Why? It's honest. Thank you for the offer. I appreciate it. This was polite, right? Thank you for the offer. I appreciate it. It's just not going to work for me today. You shouldn't have to say any more than that. That's it. If they have a problem with it, it's their problem, because that's how it goes. When we show up at whatever thing like that, it makes said person feel good. So when they're irritated, that's all their own stuff, and that's not our problem. And what it comes down to is learning to become comfortable with the uncomfortable, little disapproval, because there's tension there. And that tension actually, and it's very important to become comfortable with the uncomfortable tension, is a good thing. It shows growth. And again, we're not talking about being impolite. We're saying, thank you for asking. This was very nice of you to include me, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to work for me today. I just have things to do. I need a mental health day. You don't even need to get into all that. It's just not going to work for me. And then when the tension is in, they start to come with the back, well, just and then and there's tension because we're feeling that sinking feeling in our stomach, especially if you had a really dysfunctional growing up, because I can relate to that not pity, but pit-ish, feeling in my stomach, like, oh no, because they want me to be, them wanting you to be there is all about them. And I can remember that sinking feeling. And that's coming deep from the vault of childhood. Let that tension be there, because what we tend to do is cave in often until we get sick of doing it. We will cave in and trade off some nice for some approval. So, okay, all right, fine, I didn't really want to go, but now I will. And then you're totally the hero, because then they talked you into it, which also reinforce their behavior. But that's like a video for another time. So then we get that like immediate dope fix of very temporary approval, because that's the ego just seducing us into these quick fix good feelings to satisfy someone else, so we can have a 2 seconds of approval, because that's all it really lasts with, especially with those types anyway. And so, and then we kick ourselves, and then we're resentful because we spent the whole Sunday, when that was the only day of the week we had to be off, doing things we don't want to do with people we're not interested in, not invested in, or whatever. And now we're 3 times as exhausted before we start our work week. So who did we abandon? We didn't abandon them. We abandoned us. And the reason is because many of us who have had this type of childhood have a fear of abandonment issues, as I say, fear of abandonment. So we would rather be 3 times more exhausted on Monday, caving in, doing something we don't want to do, which completely depletes us of all energy, because we're caving into the ego, because we fear being abandoned by that person, right? And disappointing, and that horrible feeling of not being approved of. And worse than that, we just abandon ourselves. So boundaries are really about a decision and then an action that, no, you know what? I am on the path to authenticity. Ego is my evil twin. No, I am no longer going to abandon myself. And once the authentic self slides back into that driver's seat, good things start happening, because boundaries basically say, I'm going to do what I need to do, and I can only do what I can do when it's something I want to do and I'm able to do within my limits. Then I'm excited and I'm charged. If that is not the case, I'm not doing it, because the boundaries help me to stay within my capabilities as far as what I can do, and stay within my integrity. Brene Brown talks about that, because boundaries are very related to empathy, compassion, and generosity. You cannot be genuinely empathetic without boundaries. You can't. Remember that sympathy is coming from a place of up here to down here. Empathy is like, I'm feeling with you. Even if I can't relate to the actual experience, I am digging deeply into my repertoire of emotion, and I'm going to try to be right there with you. Cannot have empathy without boundaries. And compassion, we talked about Brené's research. The most compassionate people are great boundary setters. Why? Because they value themselves. And we can't value anybody else until we value us. So if we're going to win from within, it all starts in here, right? And then compassion is also a connection. We are all divine spirits connected together. So boundaries actually further strengthen the connection. It may not feel like that in the moment, when the person who is kind of, guilting and shaming you because you didn't go to the, barbecue or whatever it was. But it's all about connection, all about connection. And remember that the only people who are going to be upset with you setting boundaries are those who benefited when you didn't have any, okay? I'm not sure we want to please those people anyway. And then the last thing is generosity. We can be so much more generous of spirit when we have boundaries set up, because generosity goes with the other two, with empathy and compassion, because we can also realize that these other people, and Brené talks about this, that these other people who are kind of trying to bust through our boundaries are, even though it can be annoying and draining and a lot of work in the beginning or whatever, to try to take on the mindset that they really are doing the best they can. It can be a way tougher sell with a hardcore narcissist for sure, but let's just say most of the other people that are trying to be the boundary busters are really trying to do the best they can, and that they're in the headspace they're in and all that kind of thing. And we are better able to have that generosity of mindset when we have boundaries up ourselves. So I cannot say enough about the boundary thing. And just like we talked about the self-esteem deposit, right? Same thing with the boundaries. When we successfully set one little itty-bitty boundary, if you're not used to it, you kind of I'm not saying there's not moments of uncomfortable, but you did it. And we start to feel good, and it gets easier next time. Just like anything, when we practice it, we inevitably get better at it. So remember, boundaries, don't tread on me. #self-respect. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.